Lesson 17. Anahata Chakra. The heart chakra, mentioned a couple of times already. Anahata means incessantly beating. The heart is beating 24/7, day and night, until the day it stops. Interestingly, yoga philosophy has some very interesting theory about when the heart stops. Apart from disease, of course, but even that falls under karma. The heart stops when there is no karma anymore. If you look at, I think I told you about my grandfather who died 73 years old in perfect health. He just passed away in his sleep. I didn't tell you. I told you that he was very lazy, very passive. Yeah. When he was 73 years old, my mom every Wednesday visited him to clean up a little bit. And he said, I'm going to, he said literally, I'm going to blow the crow's march. Crows, you know, crows are identified with death. When you see the crow, it spells, it's a dark omen, it spells death. So he said to my mom, he called her by her name, he said, Truus, I'm going to blow the crow's march tonight. And he did, just passed away in his sleep. No suffering, no, just his heart stopped. And he felt it was time. There are also examples, he was only 73 years old, which if you are healthy is not that old. But there are also people who live until the age of 100, 110 even some. And sometimes, you know, there is, for example, this guy who is very famous for his documentaries for BBC. What's his name again?
David.
Huh?
David Attenborough.
Yes, David Attenborough. Thank you. David Attenborough. If you see him and you hear him talk, you'll never guess his age. He's in his mid-90s. This man is in his mid-90s and he's so full of life. That's it. He's full of life. He still feels he had a lot to do. Especially educate people about how we are destroying the earth. He's very passionate about that. So his heart doesn't stop beating. It is that passion that provides vital energy, prana, that makes him continue to feel alive, to be alive, literally and figuratively. Energy is everything. If there's no energy anymore, life becomes very gray and dull, and you lose purpose. The heart, no surprise, therefore, is an important indication for Oriental doctors, and it used to be also for Western doctors, feeling the pulse, determining based on what they feel in the pulse, your condition. Not a typical disease, but your overall condition. In the same way that they use your stool as an indication of your overall condition. The heart chakra, it stands at the center of everything. Opening the heart is one of the great goals of yoga. Because opening the heart is accompanied by all the wonderful characteristics human beings latently possess. And the most important of all is, of course, universal love, unconditional love. 조건 없는 사랑. Which is Sounds very idealistic, maybe easy. It is not. If you look at the drawings of the heart chakra, there are several. The one on the back side clearly shows, the one on the page, the first page also shows a model of the heart chakra, symbolical. You see that in the circle there is a double triangle, which is a Star of David. Now, just like with the yin-yang model, nobody knows exactly what that means. Yin-yang model we have explained, the Star of David is in fact a yin-yang model. But it is more sophisticated in a way, because it is related to your energy circulation, and it is symbol of the heart chakra for a reason. The triangle that points up is symbolism for Shakti rising. The triangle pointing down, you guess, represents Shiva energy flowing down. Why in the heart? The heart chakra only opens up, allowing all those wonderful characteristics to manifest, to be expressed, when there is sattva. Yoga practice done correctly, meaning that it leads to sattva, automatically leads to functioning from the heart. You may have already noticed, even though this course is only not even halfway, you may have noticed that you become more sensitive, including maybe more emotional. You start to become aware of the people around you in ways that you were not aware of them before. Your mom, your dad, your siblings. You start to become conscious of certain aspects of them, often related to their condition, to their suffering, that you were totally oblivious of before, that you were not aware of before. Only these little indications tell us that the heart chakra is indeed becoming activated. So that's a really wonderful thing. The Star of David, therefore, like the yin-yang model, is telling us about the importance of the balance between Shiva and Shakti energy. Because without that balance, this model does not exist. So this is a yin-yang model, but from another culture. So, regular yoga practice, you don't have to focus on the heart when you meditate or do energy control. You just have to practice yoga correctly. The opening up of the heart, activation of the heart chakra and all its characteristics is a natural result of creating sattva, creating harmony between yin and yang, or Shiva and Shakti. This tells us also, indirectly, symbolically, of the importance of the heart chakra. The heart chakra is, like I told you last week, the representative of the crown chakra. The crown chakra is the real location of all your higher characteristics. Wisdom, vision, love, unconditional love, intuition, higher intuition. But the crown chakra doesn't have any physical functions. It lies outside of the physical boundary. So the heart chakra is a representative of the crown chakra. The crown chakra expresses itself through the heart. So all those higher characteristics come out through the heart. Another symbol that you see in the heart chakra, both on the front page and on the last page, not on the front page. Yeah, on the front page, right at the bottom, you see one. And on the last page, more clearly on the left side, you see that there is a deer. There is a deer in the symbol of the heart chakra. The animal, a deer, sasan. What is a deer? A deer is a very skittish animal. Its eyes are very big on the side of its head. So it has an angle of view much, much bigger, wider than a human being. Characteristic of a deer is alertness. Very sensitive. You walk in the forest, you step on a twig, and in the distance a deer runs away immediately, alerted by the twig that you broke under your foot, the sound that you made. When you open your heart chakra, you become more sensitive. So you have to be very careful what you allow into your life, what you allow into your heart. The more sensitive you become, the more easily you get hurt. That is why the deer is an important symbol for the heart chakra. Not only do human beings need to open their heart, the world will become a better place the more people open their heart. There will be no wars anymore if more people open their heart, no more conflict, no more misery. But there is a price to pay for opening the heart, and that is your increased consciousness and sensitivity, your increased emotion. And remember from the water center that emotion is a good thing, because an emotion is a sign of vitality. Not just energy, but energy with life in it. But it is important that we are aware of that. And by being aware of it, we can become the guard to our heart. Everybody gets hurt in life, but people who are extra sensitive have a potential to get hurt even more. In lesson 28 and 29, we will discuss pratyahara, which is detachment. There you learn in theory how to protect yourself against outside influence. So the answer to increased sensitivity is not oppression of our emotions. On the contrary, because then we kill our spirit again. We turn off the light again. Instead of avoiding it, we need to develop consciousness of it and learn to become selective. Learn to become careful. Yogis, yoga practitioners, therefore, do not have 100 friends or 200 friends. A yogi has only 1 or 2 friends. Because you cannot allow yourself to open up anymore to all the gross input that all these various relationships and all the conflicts that come with it give you. You become too sensitive for that. So in a very natural way, every yoga practitioner you will see, you become more selective. Meaning that you leave behind certain people that have been your friends up until some point, but then lose their value, lose their significance, because you start to become aware of the disharmony that that relation inherently carries with it. So a very natural selection process takes place. Allow that to happen. Don't feel strange. I have told you jokingly that I'm a hermit. That is the result of this process. And I'm not sad about it at all. It's not a matter of sadness or joy. It's just a reality. You have to protect your most precious asset, and that is your energy. You don't want to lose it anymore. Being drained by unnecessary distractions, conflicts, and what have you, caused by disharmonious relationships that in the past had a function, had a purpose, but because you evolve, because you grow, they lose their function and their purpose. So you simply move on. If you find that difficult to do, it's because of attachment, because of ego. The heart chakra has a subtle element, which is air. So you have earth, water, fire, air. Air, the subtle element, the active energy, in Sanskrit is called udana prana, and it is the energy that is responsible for you being upright, straight. It's like an air balloon. You know, an air balloon with a basket under it? You can make a flight with an air balloon. How does the air balloon go up? By pumping heat air into the balloon. Udana prana is active energy, so it's similar to the heat in the balloon. Literally, yoga practitioners are more straight than they were before. Soon after I started practicing yoga, people started remarking to me, mentioning to me, "Hey, Ron, you're more straight." And still, after 36 years, people say, "Oh, Ron, you're straight." Last year, when I was so busy with the dogs on the riverside, meeting so many people there, several people made that kind of remark, like, "Hey, what is it that makes you different from other people?" So when I explain I'm a yoga teacher, then they say, "Ah, krokuna." That is Korean. "Ah, krokuna." that suddenly that explains it all. But it is true. Remember the example I gave you, I mentioned it almost every class. Yubin, the girl who was told by her father to become, to fulfill his wish basically, not her own. Every time she was busy with his wish, she collapsed. Every time she was busy with her dream, her wish, which apparently was going to school and be with her friends and studying with her teachers, she was straight. She was flying through the street. That is energy. It is a difference between day and night. If you understand that, you cannot but feel intensely sad that a parent does something like that to their child. In the same way, start paying attention when you are active, how it makes you feel. When you do something that is being ordered, you're being told to do, and when you do something out of your own free will. There's a very big difference. When you're told to do something, you become dark. When you do something out of own free will, you are enthusiastic. So I mentioned somewhere in the handout that a way to activate the heart chakra is bhakti. Bhakti yoga. Now bhakti is, in contrast with what many other yoga teachers try to make you believe, bhakti yoga is not a yoga. Bhakti is in fact a developmental stage that you are in. Because your heart opens up, you naturally want to help. If you see somebody who is sad, you want to cheer them up. If you see somebody who needs help, you want to help. If nature is going down the drain, you want to undertake something. Some action, create some action group or whatever it is. You inform people, educate people about the importance of nature and the preservation of nature. That is real bhakti. But what do teachers do? They say bhakti. They also call it karma yoga or seva. You must perform seva. You know what they do? They bring a bucket with a mop and they say, clean my floor. Then you go to heaven. Yeah, it opens your heart chakra, you go to heaven. And when you're done with the floor, wash the windows for me, please. That's really happening under the guise of bhakti yoga or seva or karma. I say nonsense. I'm using a nice word. Stierenpoep in Dutch. Nobody knows, so I can say that. Nonsense. So don't let that ever happen. I never ask somebody to do something for me. I just wait. Sometimes it takes 20 years or 40 years. You see all these nice illustrations? At some point, I just wrote the text. I've been so busy writing thousands of pages and translations. That's it. I know it's not perfect. I'm not a native speaker. I'm not good with how do you put those illustrations? I have no idea. But someday somebody says, hey Ron, look what I did. Do you want me to do all the files like this? Oh yes, please, if you want. Yes, why not? Wonderful. So a guy, an English teacher, huge guy, Sean Sweet, wonderful guy. He edited the text, improving the grammar and things, use of words and what have you. But he put all these illustrations in all the files, including the advanced course. That is close to 1,000 pages altogether. I needed something like that. I didn't ask. Why? Exactly because of this. If you ask people to do something and they are not motivated, they can't say no. They will do it, but they will do it half-baked. They're not enthusiastic, they're not passionate, so I just wait. Same way, I always come early and prepare everything, and I always leave late to clean up when everybody goes home. I never bring a bucket and a mop and say, here, you need some karma yoga today or bhakti. But when you say, hey Ron, I really want to come, I will stay a little bit longer and help. At first I will say, no, you don't have to do that. I have my routine, I will take care of it. If you want to help, then yes, please. I'm very grateful for that. But I don't ask. Can you understand what I'm trying to say here? Because we live in a world where we're constantly being manipulated. But I started this segment telling you, pay attention to how you feel when you do things. Because there are two ways that it influences you. When somebody tells you to do something, you will do it, but you're not enthusiastic, you're not engaged. We say your heart and soul is not in it. And that's exactly true. That's not just an empty expression. Your heart and soul is not in it. But if you do something out of your own initiative, because suddenly you see a possibility, and you become enthusiastic, and you start investigating, and you say, oh wow, totally different energy. in the end, this is where we want to go, all of you, all of us, with our lives. For the sake of energy, for the sake of vital energy, we need to increasingly focus on things that we feel enthusiastic about, that we feel passionate about. And try to avoid situations where you are being told to do something you don't like to do, but you can't say no. That's not easy. The world is too complicated. Family, workplace, when you work for a boss, of course, when a boss tells you something needs to be done, they pay you for that. You pay a price for that. That we have a way to deal with that too. When you need to do something that you don't like vacuum cleaning, or something that your boss orders you to do, you try to find motivation within yourself. Instead of dragging yourself and doing it without your heart and soul into it, you self-motivate. You tell yourself, this is part of the process that I'm in. It is important that I do this. It is part of the goals that you are pursuing in your life require that you go through certain process, certain steps. And working in a company, having to do things that you are being ordered to do by a boss or a manager is part of a process in which you learn, in which you grow, and you work towards a future where you will be more and more independent. But that independence, that strength, does not just fall from heaven one day upon you. You have to go through a certain process of growing and learning. So try to see everything as a form of training. That's what I have always done. Everything. If you deal with difficult or miserable situations like that, it totally changes your perspective. Instead of dark, it becomes light. Instead of negative, it becomes positive. This is about management, self-management. Management of your most precious asset, which is energy. The open heart chakra is mentioned on the first page with the illustration of Jesus Christ. I mentioned it last week because the subject just came to the open heart. In Korea, if you enter houses of people who attend church, in my experience, very often when you enter the front door, you face a picture of Jesus with a burning heart. So that is not just a picture, it's not just an illustration. It indicates that Jesus Christ was one of those few persons in life, in history, that had reached a level of development that we call sainthood. Holy person, he became a holy man. Mother Teresa, if you hear the stories about all the things that she did, apparently a holy woman. And we look at these kind of designations of people being holy or saintly as something that is very rare and very difficult to achieve, if we believe at all that something like that actually exists. It exists. It is a development of the crown chakra opening up, and through that the heart. But it's not, we are surrounded by people who have these qualities. There are many, if only you know how to recognize them. We live in a time, Ajita, my teacher in Holland, used to say we live in the time of the 100 Buddhas. But throughout the centuries, visionaries, people with clairvoyance who were able to predict the future, have repeatedly said that around the year 2000, Jesus Christ will come back down to earth. You ever heard something like that? So everybody is waiting, and people are saying, hey, it's 2020 now, where is he? He's here. Not in the appearance of a person with a long beard, dressed in the way that he is pictured here. But there are many saints, there are many Christs. It is look what happened after the Second World War. All kinds of global institutions have been set up for what? For one purpose, to reduce the suffering of mankind. One that has been a lot in the news recently is the World Health Organization. But there is UNICEF, there is even for animals, the World Wildlife Fund. There are many global institutions whose sole purpose is to reduce suffering and improve life overall of human beings, but also of animals and nature. That is, by definition, the heart expressing itself. Now, of course, you can say, yes, but look at what is happening. There's so much politics going on, there's lying going on and what have you. That is unavoidable with big organizations. There are always people with big egos that determine the front of what you are seeing, giving a negative or a bad impression, but the heart of it, the essence of it, is right. It is an expression of Christhood or sainthood, expression of the heart. So what I'm trying to picture here is a society worldwide that is becoming more and more heart-centered if you compare it with the centuries before. So those people who predicted that this is the age of 100 Buddhas or 1,000 Buddhas, or this is the age that Christ comes back to earth, they were right. But just like all the scriptures that were written in the past, it is symbolical language. So if you go out into the street and say, hey, are you Jesus Christ? Are you Jesus? Where is he? I don't see him. It's all a lot of nonsense. No, it's not. Because clairvoyance is based on sensing a tendency, sensing energy. And that is very difficult to express that in concrete language. So they use poetry or symbolical language, describing a subtle phenomenon with an image that you can picture yourself, that you can imagine. So you say 1,000 Buddhas. 1,000 Buddhas, that is a lot more than one. Or Jesus Christ, who has a very distinct role in history, coming back to earth. That is something you can concretely try to picture, try to imagine. Yeah? But what is really happening is an energy phenomenon. More and more people functioning from the heart. And it's interesting that both in the East and the West, people came to that conclusion that that would happen or somewhere around the year 2000. So that's also very subjective. That is a process that started decades ago and will continue eternally, basically. So the year 2000, that is only, you have to pinpoint somewhere. But it is very subjective. It's not exactly in the year 2020 or in the year 2000 that phenomenon suddenly fell upon the earth. It started long before and it will go on long after. It's just somewhere circled around that age. Good. So the Tamatra, the subtle element, is air, Udana Prana. The subtle vehicle of action is grasp, the Karmendriya, grasp, grabbing things, literally touching things, grabbing things. So the organ of perception is the skin, because you feel through the skin. So that is the Snanendriya. Subtle energy, Udana Prana. Color is green. Now I told you last week about the color red and the week before. I hope you start recognizing this, because you notice that color has a huge influence on how we perceive things. Color green and the color blue. Where do you see those in corporate life? Banks and insurance companies. You know, when I came to Korea, there was a Boram Bank, Boram Uneng, and later that became Seoul Uneng, and then later it merged again. They're always merging here. But they used the color red in the beginning for some reason. Later, I think it became green or blue after merging. I don't know exactly who they merged with in the end. Seoul Uneng, maybe with Hana Bank, but blue and green appeal to your sense of trust, stability. You use the color red is aggression that appeals to your raw instincts. If you want people to take out insurances and trust you with their savings, you need to instill trust in them. And one of the ways to do that is to use green or blue, or blue. The heart chakra has a secondary chakra, a satellite. Let's keep this as a symbol of the heart chakra. The secondary chakra is called Kalpataru. And Kalpataru translates as the wishing tree, tree of the wish. It means that you will develop the ability to make wishes come true. You believe that?
Yes.
No doubt about it. But I don't know exactly which chakra it was that we talked about the difference between wanting and hope. When you want, the energy becomes contracted. The energy contracts and the flow of the energy is blocked when you want. So wanting, when we obtain what we want through wanting, literally wanting, we use the willpower of Manipura chakra, and it always leads to conflict. We get what we want in the short term, but it always leads to mayhem, stepping on people's toes, conflict. Wishing is in the heart, Kalpataru chakra. But it means that you express the wish and you carry it in your heart. You dream of it. In the moments that you are drinking your coffee, staring at the ceiling on the wall, your whole being is filled with that vision of your wish, what you would like to achieve, what you would like to obtain. And it makes you glow. Every time when you think of it, it feels so nice, it feels so good. But you just wait. So fulfilling wishes really is possible. But it requires many conditions to be met. One is that you control your greed, your physical willpower from Manipura Chakra to just regardless get what you want now. Not tomorrow, next week or next year, now. And when you're not sensitive, that is how you function. You also hear that there is another way that doesn't cause so much disharmony. Do you recognize what I'm telling? Is there something in your life that you would really like either to get or to achieve? And every time when you think about it, you feel like heaven? Even when you're in a difficult circumstance, in a difficult situation, at home or at work, but you just close your eyes for a moment, connect with what it is that you dream of, and everything is okay, regardless of all the misery, the suffering that you go through. It's something that you look forward to. It's something that keeps you alive. It is something that makes life worthwhile, including and especially the struggles that you go through, the misery that you are experiencing. You recognize this? It is how I have built up my yoga school. That is why we are totally different from any other yoga school. I'm 36 years into my career as a yogi, and I don't even have my own studio. If you think of it, this is totally ridiculous, isn't it? Or at least it's a little bit weird or strange. No, it is not. Because I follow my heart. I do want to have a studio again. It will come when the time is right. But if I had let myself guided not by my heart, but the way that we normally function, based on fear of the future, fear of getting old, then by all means I would have had a studio, and it would have caused me tremendous suffering. I had a studio, but when it started causing suffering, I closed it. And actually I didn't even know what I was going to do. I closed it without knowing what to do next. So I was actually planning to go to Australia. Another foolish dream. I was going to go to Australia. If not this, well then okay, let's then try that. But before that could manifest, because it would take many steps of preparation to manifest, 3 weeks after I gave back the keys of the studio in Itaewon, the telephone rang. And really, at that time, amazing opportunity was offered, which I refused. You know the story, I think, you remember. Every time I said, no, I'm not interested. And finally I accepted, and it was a very important stage in my evolution, my development. Just following my heart. But it means uncertainty, instability, which as a non-yogi, you'll not be able to stand, not be able to deal with. As a yogi, you be the person par excellence to live in that paradox. Practicing and teaching stability while being in an unstable situation. Can you see that? It's possible, but I tell you, it's a work of a lifetime. And you think you have a bucket list with 100 things to do before you die. You think that these are wishes. They're not. You know what a bucket list is? You can call it a wish list, but it is a to-do list of things that you are afraid to lose out on. You are afraid, You think it's something that you must do, and if you don't, then life is worthless. So you need to go to the Eiffel Tower and go to the top. You need to go to the Himalayas and climb a mountain. You need to go deep sea diving somewhere in the ocean. And name it. I always tell my students, you have a bucket list? Smile with it. Play with it. But stop seeing it as something that you must do. Actually, rather, throw it away. Life is not about the Eiffel Tower, deep sea diving, or the Himalayas. Really not. Fulfillment, you find in your heart. A bucket list actually, in itself, is a cause of anxiety. Can you see that? Just being scared that you'll never be able to fully complete your bucket list. Life of a yogi is very boring. I say with a big smile, because boring is stable. Boring allows energy in the heart to stay in the heart. And if it gets too boring, well, the universe gives you a dog or something. Questions about the heart chakra? Oh yes, unconditional love. Deep sigh. Love is a very sensitive issue. But you know, we talked last week about exposure. So we get hurt. And when we get hurt, we say, it will never happen again. So you close yourself off. And you never open yourself up anymore to love, just because there is the possibility that you get hurt again. It's true. Heartbreak is horrible. In fact, the heart chakra flourishes when there is love. But the heart can break. We call it heartbreak. When somebody dies, or when the relationship breaks up. In fact, it can be so severe that it kills a person. A baby that grows up without love, without any love at all, can actually just die spontaneously, just for the lack of love. So it has a deep impact, love or the lack of it. Now, unconditional love means to be able to be in a relationship without demands, without expectation, your expectation. You know, I was in a relationship, and I think I'm pretty well capable of unconditional love. Then you become accused of, you love your dog more than me. And worse, you don't get jealous. When your partner is communicating with another person, and you know that is happening, even your partner has an affair, you don't get angry, you don't fight. Of course you feel something, but you don't explode in anger or jealousy. Your partner will say, you don't love me. That is sad, right? Because actually you are functioning on quite a high level of consciousness, and you're able to deal with infidelity. and then you're being accused of not loving your partner. Have you ever experienced that? The usual way that we engage in relationships is being jealous, even if we look at someone else. And we want to see my partner's phone record and email. Go ahead. You can see my phone, you can see my email. I'll give you the password. But you know what? If you're suspicious, you're always going to find something that looks suspicious. You didn't do anything wrong, but somebody sent you a message. God bless you, happy Easter, peace and love, something like that. Then your partner, what? Who is this? Why are they sending you this message? Or somebody says, I'm a man, I'm a yoga teacher, somebody sends a message. Hey teacher, I have my period, so I'm not coming today. Then your partner thinks, period? Why? They have sex with each other and now she has a period, so she doesn't come. No, she doesn't come to class, she's tired and she doesn't want to practice yoga today. You understand what I'm saying? If you want to see, if you're suspicious, you always find something even when it is not there. So for me, I'm not interested in your phone, your record, your email, nothing. I don't want to see it, I don't want to. But if you want to see mine, here you have it. But you set yourself up for disaster. Can you see what I think you all want to know what your partner is up to, huh? See their phone and their email. From today, you are the deer in the heart chakra. Give in to your need to know what your partner is doing, because it's human. It's based on your Muladhara chakra. You know now how it works. So make it an experiment next time. Next time when you don't trust your partner, see it as something inside you and study what is happening and how it works and how it makes you feel consciously. Then when you start to notice the severe disruption that it causes, you will automatically want to stop with that kind of behavior. And in that way, unconditional love naturally comes into your life and into your relationship. The thing is, I remember very clearly one day, a long time ago, one of my students asked me, unconditional love, it ends up me being a doormat. You know what it means, being a doormat? For Korean people, being a doormat means that people abuse you. Because you're so nice and you practice unconditional love, the people abuse you. No. Unconditional love does not mean throwing away your self-respect and your dignity. Unconditional love also does not mean, like many religious sects are proclaiming, free love, which means not love but sex. And the abuse begins. The abuse of women, the female members of the sect, but also children are being abused under the guise of unconditional love. No, never. That has nothing to do with unconditional love. So if you have a partner and you become capable of unconditional love, and your partner does have affairs, there comes a point where you say, okay, well, you know, I did my best. But I have my dignity. And I talked with you about it many times, and you don't respect me. You don't. I want you to be free and I want you to communicate with other people, but not in this way. There comes a point. So unconditional love does not mean that people walk all over you and destroy your dignity. Unconditional love means that you control yourself, your emotions, your fears, your suspicion. But if your partner uses that as a free, as an excuse to Well, you don't care, so I can have relationships with others. If it's going in that direction, you may eventually come to the conclusion that your partner does not deserve to be with you. It's not easy. Unconditional love, on the contrary, like everything else that we are discussing, actually, not easy. It is a natural development. You will see your capability, your capacity to practice unconditional love is a natural development in you. You will always be human. There will always be activity in Muladhara Chakra where fear is located and doubt, but your heart will become stronger, overruling that fear and doubt, suspicion. So it's a natural development. But keep in mind, it does not mean being a fool. In Korea, you have the word noguro in Mao. You have a wide heart. That is this. You have a tolerance that is much higher than other people, but there is a point where you say, okay, it doesn't work. If you don't get it, then there's not more that I can do. We tried so much and we talked so much. You're not a doormat. And don't ever become a doormat under the guise of unconditional love. If ever you go to Bali or somewhere, in the past there were many English native teachers in Korea. So those were my main students in the past, young. So whenever they have a chance, they go to India, to Bali, to wherever. And there are many of these ashrams and sects. Now, one of the stories I remember is a couple of students together went to India, and they ended up at what is it called, a tantra yoga ashram, and they thought it was interesting. What happens in the tantra ashram, tantra yoga ashram, is for a week you just practice yoga, and then you are being told to pull straws, and based on the straws you are being paired with one of your fellow students and told to withdraw yourself in a hut and practice tantra yoga, which is sex. So with total strangers that you have practiced with for 1 week, and based on drawing straws, you're being told to practice yoga in the form of sex with a total stranger. That has nothing to do with tantra. It's a form of abuse. Teachers who teach that kind of yoga, either they are greedy, making money with something that everybody is kind of intrigued by, which is sex, or they are functioning on their lowest chakras themselves. They are perverts themselves. You know what Tantra means? There are not many people who know what Tantra means, but the Hatha Yoga Pradipika is a tantric book. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is a tantric book. Some people know that. Now in the past, in the beginning of 2000, when the internet started to expand, one way of promoting my yoga was through Yahoo and Naver. Naver is typically Korean, but you had Yahoo Korea. Those were the platforms to spread, to promote. And people could react to that. They could leave messages to your promotion. Then somebody reacted saying, "You're a pervert. You are promoting tantric books. You're a dirty man." So I replied, kind of like, "Have you ever read the book? Do you actually know what Tantra means? There's no mention of sex or sexuality in this book at all. And neither in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. What is Tantra? Tantra is a shuttle in a loom. that flips from left to right and back and forward. You know what a loom is? A loom, you use a loom to weave a carpet or to weave textile. And the loom is the shuttle with a thread attached to it, and it goes back and forward, creating the textile, creating the carpet or whatever cloth it is making. So what does Tantra mean? It's another symbol for the fluctuation between tamas and rajas, left and right, back and forward. Sexuality inherently is energy. So surely you can twist that into something yoga, but not in the perverted way that people are doing. In the United States, I know there are Tantra parties. Tantra party is an excuse for orgy. In the past it used to be called orgy, but an orgy is a dirty word. Tantra sounds mysterious and spiritual, but it's just to have sex with many people and various people you don't know under the guise of spiritual activity or new age. Enjoy sex if you want, but do not ever be abused under the guise of something like this. I'm telling you, I'm warning you, that never ever be manipulated into thinking that it is okay. It is not. There is a book. It's called what is it called again? It's about love. It's the Yoga Book of Love. The yeah, Kama Sutra. Kama Sutra. Sutra is a holy scripture. Kama means desire. So it's a holy scripture on the subject of desire. So many people, when you mention the word Kama Sutra, people suddenly have sparkles in their eyes and naughty eyes and oh, Kama Sutra, oh, it's about sex, isn't it? The original Kama Sutra does not have any illustrations. The modern Kama Sutra, of course, has illustrations. The original Kama Sutra is without illustrations, and it is a book that doesn't promote sex just like sex. It describes sexuality from the point of view of energy, harmony, and the possibility to actually let energy rise and stimulate spirituality. It's not a book with all kinds of different techniques for sex. This is what many people think. It is not. But you have to see the time frame in which the book was written. A couple of thousand years ago, when sex was just raw sex, like animal sex. But we live in a time where, for most people, not everybody, but sexuality is very much a matter of romance. It's not something that you just do based on a sexual impulse, but something that you have together. And the Kama Sutra is actually promoting that togetherness, that fusion between the man and the woman, the two partners. And together you can go to heaven. Not by raw sex, but by canalizing your energy. And the Kama Sutra gives certain ways to control that process and to promote that canalization of energy, the energy rises up. If you have experienced sex with a partner that you actually really loved and you felt loved by that partner, you feel like being in heaven after the sex is over, after it is done. That is really what the Kama Sutra is trying to promote. The world has changed a lot and we don't understand those texts anymore. This is a tantric book. Why? Because by definition, this is a book about Shiva and Shakti and trying to create sattva, harmony. And that's really what Tantra means. The shuttle in the loom, the fluctuation between left and right, Shiva and Shakti, plus and minus. Questions? Oh yeah, interesting, just practical. You notice that we started with a lot of standing exercises. Spreading the feet, the legs, bending at the hips. Some exercises where you bend a leg in the process. Exercises that stimulate the heart chakra are exercises where you use your arms. Mayurasana is one of those. There's also Chaturanga Dandasana, the stick pose. In the gym it's called the plank pose. A plank pose is usually done on the elbows. In yoga it's done on the hands. It's 10 times more intense than on the elbows. The cobra pose, it's poses that soon will be in the schedule also. All the hand balancing poses, there are many. Not only handstand, but there are poses where you are balancing on your hands while your legs are below, not pointing to the ceiling. So all the hand balancing poses, they are considered to be the most advanced poses. Why? Not because they are the most difficult, they can be difficult. Not because they are the most difficult, but because they serve the highest goal of opening the heart chakra. Okay, let's take a short break.